You're listening to the Beyond Mommy Dearest podcast, where we talk about growing up with narcissistic moms, how it shapes your nervous system, your relationships, and your sense of self, and how to heal without shame. I'm your host, Noelani Pearl Hernandez.
This episode is sponsored by the Happy Cannabis, body products designed to help you on your healing journey by supporting your nervous system with every application.
Welcome back to the Beyond Mommy Dearest podcast. Today I sit down with Narcissist Sami to explore self-trust, nervous system healing, people-pleasing, boundaries, and why survivors often repeat familiar relationship patterns. If you're healing from narcissistic abuse, this is a conversation for you. Sami, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I am so thankful that you were a part of the conference and now, sharing your story here on the podcast. Can you, for people who are just getting introduced to you, can you share a little bit about your story and what led you to working with survivors of narcissistic abuse?
Absolutely. How long do you have? No, I'm just kidding.
No.
So what really led me to it, and this is not to knock anyone because there are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful therapists out there, but it educated me on it's important to do some vetting. And this is something, I thought one therapist, they must know it all. They know everything about abuse. And after a couple therapists and a marriage counselor, and then still getting into a relationship after being single for 2 years, getting into another relationship that was the worst relationship I've ever been in, the most dangerous relationship. I knew that there was something else deeper going on that needed my attention. And that's what got me into this, because I'm like, if all of these therapists didn't recognize it, and I learned that it's not standard part of their education, then what can I do to help? And I started making little posts here and there and getting comments. And I was like, oh, there's other people out there. Okay. I don't want to hurt anybody. So let me go to school and see what I can do to help. I don't have 15 years to go to school or anything, but let me see what I can do to at least help support people without harming them further like I was harmed.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you say that because, I find on a daily basis that there's certain things that are super programmed in me. And they're little IEDs, I call them, where it'll hit a certain thing or I'll hit a certain threshold and I'll have to go through this activation is what my husband and I call it. If I get to a certain, or I feel something or I feel some kind of way, I have to go through this process. And it's crazy. Those types of things that narcissists still have planted in your brain. It's really crazy. The other thing I want to comment on is I had someone on a couple of weeks ago and she was a therapist. So she went to school, did, the 2 years of the master and then the supervision. And she said that she was seeing a lot of people who were having issues recovering from narcissistic abuse. And so she went through a certified training with Dr. Ramani. And she said there's 80 people in the US only that deal with it. And there's a whole bunch of us coaches that deal with it. Right. And so one of the things that I want to make really clear to people as we're having this conversation is, okay, yeah, no, we're not therapists, but coaching, and what Kristen said was that coaching, we ride in parallel. So they can help with the deep rooted family systems while we look at the future. And I think that is a super important thing because when these IEDs, these, improvised explosive devices go off in our head, we can say, okay, let's stop. What is that reaction? So thank you for all your work that you're doing. I'm sorry that you had to go through it, but Sisters in Healing, I'm glad that we kind of the healing community is so sweet. And I'm glad we all found each other. There's a bunch of us that just over the course of the last 6 months have. So I'm so glad you're here.
Me too. And I'm not going to stop no matter what people say.
I know. them. That's what I
Yeah,
always say. I'm like, fuck
seriously.
you. Don't make me be quiet. You're culpable. You're culpable. I'm going to say something. So,
That's all they're
you know,
trying to do is
I
silence.
know. I know. And I don't understand as we look at the world around us. Like, I don't understand. Like, well, I guess I do because there's a culpability. They might feel liable for what's going on. I think that, the court systems, as we go deeper into this, the court systems aren't like fit to like find these people.
No.
And, what might seem like it's high conflict oftentimes is that narcissism.
Hmm.
And so we were, talking before we started, and one of the things that you shared with me, and I would love for you to share here, is like, what made you realize that these weren't just like relationships issues and that there was something deeper, like this narcissistic abuse, and like why they were like attracted to you?
Why they were, that was a couple of questions. Let me see.
I know that was sweet.
Um,
So, well, yeah,
well, what they were attracted. So, and that's where it's like, I try not to say that we attract them because I feel like that's so, it kind
yeah,
of blames
it
ourselves. But at the
puts it
same
on us. Yeah.
time, there is, you don't want to do that early in someone's healing, but there does become that point that, I'm like, what is it in me? That empathy, that, willingness to forgive everything and
Hmm.
overlook
Hmm.
and make excuses and say, well, they didn't mean it. And that's because, and that's what I learned in school. And that's what the difference between trauma informed is that we are allowed to go back and revisit things. And when
Hmm.
I did and was doing my trauma timeline, I was making a lot of connections with, my parents not believing me, my parents not,
Yes.
you know, I never really fit in with my family. I felt like an outcast, even though
Hmm.
I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was like the only one that
Right.
sister didn't graduate high school. I graduated high school.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
there was a lot of turmoil in my family for sure,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I just never felt like I belonged. And I was even told I was adopted at one point. So just I
Ew.
wanting, yeah, that was my
Ew. Still your sister. Ew.
I know. I haven't talked to her in years, but yeah, I still love her from a safe distance.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
just realizing a lot of, man, I for years thought because I was successful, we'll say, because I graduated, I
Hmm.
went to college,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
finally
Hmm.
had a family, that my childhood didn't affect me. When I had just gotten very good at
Hmm.
those protector behaviors and putting on that mask that, and I'm ADHD too. So I
Yeah.
got very
Yeah.
used to functioning and putting on this, I wouldn't say fake, but performing the way I was like, this makes me look successful. So clearly
Right.
my childhood didn't affect me, or I'd be on drugs,
Right.
I'd
Yep.
be, whatever.
Right.
None of that happened. So clearly it didn't affect me, but it
Right.
definitely did because my nervous system still sought out that familiar emotional unavailability in people. Because if I can
Yep.
make them love me, and that means I'm good enough and I'm lovable and I'm worthy.
Yeah, that it's so interesting because I just had this conversation about like you go like going to what is the normal. And one of the things that we've talked about with our kids is like go out and be kind. Of course, be kind, like be a kind
Mhm.
person, but don't be nice because nice means like you're a pushover
Mhm.
and people will just bulldoze over you even if that person is a kind person because they can see that. Now if you're kind, you can draw your boundaries and you can say, okay, no, I still like you, but
Mhm.
this is my boundary, right? Like what you just said, like I love my sister from afar, right? And I think that that means that you're kind not only to that person but you're kind to yourself because that's not a healthy relationship. You were talking about your nervous system and we were talking about one of the things that often um narcissistic abuse recovery coaches talk about is shifting from that trusting other people to trusting yourself,
Mhm.
like knowing that trust within yourself. So why do you think that is so important for people who are starting that healing journey and then becoming and embracing them being a survivor.
Learning how to trust yourself. Because so
Hmm.
many people, and I get it because I was there, that said, I'm never going to trust, how am I ever going to trust anyone again? It's
Hmm.
nothing about trusting them. It's trusting, getting to a point to where, you know what, getting into a relationship, meeting someone, knowing that if they did walk away, it's not if they walk away, that's tied to my self-worth. It's if they walk away or if I decide to walk away,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
I'm still going to be okay
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
I'm dependent on me. And that's, I trust myself now. And being able to look back and say, you know what, in the beginning of those, both of those horrible relationships, something did feel off. No matter
Right.
how good it
Hmm.
was, in hindsight, I made
Hmm.
excuses. Oh, he's
Hmm.
really good to me. He's very attentive. He's this,
Hmm.
that, the
Hmm.
other.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I didn't trust my body because I had been so conditioned not to
Hmm.
trust myself.
Yeah.
And now I trust. Anytime I feel something, I mean, I can just feel, and it's not where you're like over protective of yourself and shut everyone off, but it's,
Right.
this doesn't feel right. Let me get curious about it and being comfortable having that conversation and
Hmm.
recognizing, is this person actually hearing me? Or are
Hmm.
they redirecting the conversation? Because those kinds of people are still going to be drawn to you. You're
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
going to be a little bit initially attracted to them, but you're not, it's never going to get that far again. As long as you've done the
Right.
work to heal, it's not going to get
Right.
that. And you're going to be
Right. Yeah.
challenging. These people do not
Yeah.
like a challenge. A lot of them do not like a challenge. They're
No,
very
they're very lazy.
easy.
Yeah.
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 So I'm very challenging. That's why if I haven't dated in a while, but when I did date, I called it research. I didn't call it dating
I
because
love that.
they'd be like, well, let me, if I would sense that something was off, I'd be like, well, let me ask them this and see how they respond. And be like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
okay. Hmm.
Right. Well, and the thing I remember, me coming out of the relationship, I always say I had I say I had a narcissistic mother. So of course my first like big relationship where there was like a formal commitment, of course it was going to be with a narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, like that makes sense. And I knew coming out of that relationship that I knew what I didn't like. There were
Mm-hmm.
certain things I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew what I didn't like. And I think for a lot of, and I see this with my daughters, a lot of little girls, there's like this fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I just saw Laura Richards just said it on one of her clips. She's all, I love Disney, but God damn it, Disney. Like they make this like romance and the K-pop drama is like so like it's romantic and promposals and all this stuff is supposed to happen. That's not real life. Like
No.
it's not real life at all. And I think that when you're working with someone, when you're going to life together, when you're headed down the same path, that's different than, you know, a crazy promposal.
Yeah.
Like and I think that, you know, a lot of people who have been through that narcissistic abuse like push that self-trust, that gut interaction like away. And two of our daughters, my oldest and my husband's youngest, because I we have four altogether, his are very sensitive. And we really like that's their superpower
Mm-hmm.
for that. Like we never tell them not to. It's we like work with them on how they can feel that emotion, not
Mm-hmm.
place it on everyone else, and then figure out what that means.
Yeah.
And so for them, it's their tummies, right? And for a
Mhm.
lot of people, it's like, oh, I got a stomach ache. That means something's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So, what does self trust actually feel like for people in their body, for someone who's been disconnected from it for so long?
What does it feel like? That's a good question. What does it feel like? Um, just knowing when something is off, and then I can remember very specifically knowing something didn't feel right and recognizing in the past how I would have gaslit myself and said, you know what,
Mm,
this is my past talking because that's what people have told me. This is, this is your insecurities, this is your whatever. And I was
mhm.
just like, and I really felt this shift. It was about a year and a half ago when I was dating someone and I went much older. I was like, well, let me try this out. He's much older. Let's see.
Right,
No,
right.
started with H.
Yeah.
I was like, let me just, let me ask this question. And I was like, no, that's it. And I said, this isn't working for me. And having that just feeling that, you know what, no, it didn't
Mhm.
feel right for me. I felt it wasn't just the hypervigilance. My body was saying, I'm picking up on these inconsistencies and they're not receptive to actually being honest about it and saying, you know what? Yeah, I've had an off few days. I haven't, whatever. Instead, they deflected and put it back on me. Well, I thought you were
Mhm.
stressed. Like, no, I'm not falling for this again. And just being,
Right.
that's what it felt like. I felt very confident and being able to send that message. I just remember I was standing right there and I was like, I like the way this feels. Choosing
Yeah.
instead of chasing someone or being like, maybe it really is me. No, it wasn't me.
Right. Right. Well, and that I think is a really important thing for people to understand is like narcissists know exactly what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they know this whole like web that they weave where they're like gaslighting you so that they don't have to, again, we said it, they're lazy, narcissists are lazy. So they gaslight you until you're gaslighting yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they don't even have to do any work. You're gaslighting yourself. That when you get a phone call, an email, or whatever from them, or something that feels the same,
Mm-hmm.
your nervous system like ignites exactly the same way. So that, 30 years from now, at least with a narcissistic mom, 30 years from now, she doesn't even have to be around. And I'm still doing some of the stuff where I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
what the heck? Okay. And what it's the catching that part of so that when you're overriding, and you just talked about it, like you're overriding that something feeling off and where you're going. But why do you think that so many survivors override that something's feeling off in that that early moments or that early times when they're
Can
in their healing? I'm sorry?
Oh, early in their healing? Well, I would say it's
Yeah.
just conditioning and not trusting, not being
Yeah.
connected. Because a lot of us, we dissociate, we check out, we go somewhere
Hmm.
else,
Hmm.
not being in tune, not even knowing who we are. Because we lose who we are when we were the, not necessarily parents. You don't really ever
Yeah.
get to figure
Yeah.
out who you are with parents. But when you're
Yeah.
with these people, everything becomes about them. So you
Hmm.
don't even
Hmm.
know who you are without them. So
Hmm. Hmm.
who am I without this person? So early on, just that not knowing that, well, what am I going to do if they don't, if this doesn't work out?
Right.
It's going to be just fine. As long as you
Yes.
have things that you can fall back on, like get back into things that you've always wanted to do that you never did. Find out
Yeah.
what it
Yeah.
is that really brings you joy outside of a human person, outside of
Yep.
kids, even outside of your spouse,
Yep. Yep.
something that brings you joy.
Right. It's really interesting because a lot of enmeshment happens with parents and kids when they are narcissists. We're reading this book. I'm glad my mom died.
Mhm.
Where she talks about being a child star. Jeanette McCurdy talks about being a child star and how that enmeshment happened with her mom. And I think that learning that you like other things outside of that is really, really important because of course you can like certain things as a couple or whatever. That's not a bad thing. But if there are certain things that you like, my husband loves cars. Like I love cars, but I'm not like into cars as much as he is. But
Mhm.
I love listening to him talk about it because I think that it's important. And there's certain things that I love that he's like, okay, I'll listen.
Mhm.
Not really my thing, but I'll listen to it. And I think that's a really important thing when it comes to a healthy relationship. You alluded to it earlier, um, but why don't we like riff a little bit on this? Like, can you explain why talk therapy alone sometimes isn't enough when you're recovering from this?
Um, well, and there's a study that has actually proven that talk therapy can be more harmful if you keep doing
Interesting.
it over and over
Hmm.
and over, because
Hmm.
you're not going anywhere. You're just talking about it, and then you're just basically reiterate
Reliving.
over
Yeah.
and over and over until you're just, no. That's why I love the somatic part of it and the nervous
Yeah.
system part of it, because you
Yeah.
learn how to, okay, well, this is what is happening. What does it feel like in my body? Let's
Mm-hmm.
get back, because a lot of times you're telling that story, you're not necessarily, you can, it's your body's feeling it, but
Mm-hmm.
you're not in tune with it yet.
Right.
But when
Right.
you're starting
Right.
to connect it, that's when you integrate. You're starting to connect. Oh, well, this is what it does feel like when something is off.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it
Mm-hmm.
feels like, when someone's lying to me. And then you knew it, but you didn't trust it.
Right. Right. I think that's really important because when I think about therapy, and I'll say this throughout this, is therapy really talks about family systems. They talk about trauma. They discuss trauma. They experience that. Whereas coaching talks about, okay, yes, there was a traumatic experience. Yes, that fucking sucked. Like that person's a douchebag. And how do we get to, be so that this doesn't happen again? And it's a lot of that somatic. It's a lot of that, okay, affirmations of what you need to do. I I I have several clients that are now working on going no contact by their choice with their parent. And it's very interesting because even though they're very different, they're explaining it very similarly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they say, "Oh, well, my mom called me and I didn't answer and I feel like I'm in trouble."
Mm-hmm.
Literally, word for word, both of them. And I'm like, okay, how does that, like, let's talk through that. Like, you are, a 60-year-old woman.
Mm-hmm.
You are a 30-year-old woman. You're an adult. You have your own agency. Why do you feel like you're in trouble? So there's that conversation. Or they say, I feel like I'm on fire a lot.
Mm,
I feel like I'm on fire. I feel like the other shoe's about to drop.
yeah.
And I and I would love to explore, like, what are some of the other things, like when I'm going through an activation,
Mm-hmm.
like where I have sets myself up for something, like my heart rate jumps, and then I go through this whole process of whatever it is, and I feel like I'm on fire. So, what are some of the other things that people might experience when they've been through this narcissistic abuse?
As far as like
Like
physically,
their body, yeah, their body. So
mhm.
maybe they can start picking up on it. It doesn't always mean that they are in narcissistic abuse, but it could be.
As far as what are they feeling like while they're in it?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. While they're
Or,
in it, or someone who's experienced it, like what like I talked about my girls and their tummy hurting.
mm-hmm.
And I mean, really, my does too. Like when anything comes in with like if I get a voicemail from my mom, my stomach starts to hurt
Mm,
like instantly. So what are some things that could happen in someone's body that they could say, you know what, this could be, let's research it, let's take a tick and dive a little bit deeper on it.
well, I do have a quiz about that, but
Oh, we will put that in the show notes.
um, for me, physically, and what I hear is that it's almost like people don't want to be away from their partner, but if there's ever
Hmm.
that break,
Hmm.
there's like this sense of relief, if that makes any sense.
It totally does, and I have a story on that, but go ahead, keep going.
Mhm. And for me, very much so was there's two of them. So with my first one, whenever he would get home, I would disappear. And I didn't
Oh,
realize that I would disappear. Like we had two boys, I would disappear and go upstairs, do laundry, stay busy. But I would yawn a lot, just
oh,
constantly. I was just
interesting.
exhausted. But I was on a lot of antidepressants too. Not on them anymore. Wonder why that is. Not that there's anything wrong. No one needs it. No judgment.
Right, when you
But
need it, but yeah.
when I moved downstairs with the very short relationship, the most dangerous one, I moved downstairs until we could get ready to leave. I remember one day he came home. First off, I was never allowed to sit down, and my boys remember that very vividly. We were talking about that not too long ago.
Interesting.
They were like, "You couldn't
Interesting.
watch a movie with us. No, the sink, everything
Interesting.
had to be clean." Even though I never did anything, I never did anything good enough. I was just constantly having my
Interesting.
responsibilities. I just didn't feel like my body could rest. I just constantly needed to be doing something all the time.
Right.
Because he was judging me for it constantly. I wasn't doing anything good enough or anything right.
That's so interesting.
But I remember one day very specifically, and that's when I really was like, this is dangerous. He came home, it was early, and I instantly almost wanted to throw up. I heard,
Oh,
and I was just like, because it was an unexpected time for him to be home.
yep, yep.
Nobody was going to be home. And I just felt so sick to my stomach.
Oh, that's
And
so interesting. Mm-hmm.
mm, yeah, but I had daily headaches. My headaches went away when my ex left overnight, literally. They literally went
Yeah,
away. My
yeah, yeah.
went away. When I was with this person, I was with him for a few months and all of a sudden they came back daily. And I remember checking into that. I was like, something's going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They had been
Mm-hmm.
gone for a long time. And all of a sudden,
Mm-hmm.
and insomnia was a
Yeah.
really big one for me as far as a physical thing. I could not sleep laying next to these people. I was on sleep
Right.
medications. It was, and now I'm not. But a lot of people
You know,
can't sleep when they get out. So it's different for everyone.
it's so interesting that you said that it like felt like a sense of relief. Hypothetically, I had a client who was going through a divorce, working with a narcissist, and the narcissist had full custody of their kids. And when the kids were able to like see the other parent, um, there was minors counsel involved, and that's going to be a whole other episode, minors counsel.
Mm,
But they were involved, and so they let the child know, hey, by the way, you're going to be spending your time with this other parent. You're not going to be able to see this parent because of the things that had happened. And the comment that minors counsel had was that the child felt a sense of relief. And
mm,
that when you said that, that was the first thing I thought about was that this child who was, a little like young, like not a teenager, but younger,
mhm,
had this natural sense of relief, even though they probably didn't have the words
mm.
to
But they
even
know.
explain. But they know, like, and that's something that, we as adults, as we, and especially in, Western culture, we're told to like push down our feelings.
Mhm,
Like, don't feel your feelings. Like, I'm going through perimenopause. My tears are all over my face, right? Like, and so I think that for someone who's listening right now, what's one way that they might be able to reconnect if they're not going through perimenopause and they're not a child? How can they reconnect to their body safely so they can start feeling the feelings and processing them so
mhm,
that they can get out of this, like if they're in a narcissistic relationship, get out of it.
mhm. Well, definitely don't ever tell the person you think they're in a narcissist
No,
relationship. But yes,
don't ever say
don't
that.
ever say it. Like,
Yeah.
made that mistake. But learn your emotions. That's one of the first things I do with people. I send them a list of, or you can get a
Yep.
wheel online. Just
Yep.
learn to name your emotions.
Hmm.
Literally, like put your hand on your chest. Put your hand wherever you're feeling it. It's typically between your neck and your lower abdomen.
Hmm.
Or you can just put your hand on your chest and your stomach and just name the feeling out loud if you feel comfortable or in your head and say,
Hmm.
tie a sensation to this feeling. Like, where are you
Hmm.
feeling it? In your chest? Is my heart racing? Am I feeling sick to my stomach? Am I feeling a lot of people use the word buzzing, like a full body buzzing.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I do the on fire. I
Mm-hmm,
feel on fire, but buzzing very similar.
mm-hmm. And just pay attention, like really getting like, what is this feeling? Where is it coming from? I love asking why a lot.
Hmm. Hmm.
Why? Not
Hmm.
why to blame yourself, but why am I feeling this way?
Hmm.
What
Hmm.
happened? What is the narrative that's going with this versus what is the reality that's happening right now?
Hmm. Hmm.
What does it
Right.
say? And
Right.
a lot of healing that a lot of people don't understand is just being able to slow down.
Yes. Um, and I think for a lot of people, because, especially here, again, Western culture where it's always speed, always, everything's always, 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 always important. this. And one of the things that narcissists do is they cause a panic all the time so that you literally don't have time to think. And so one of the things that my husband really helps me do is say, okay, like take a breath. Is this something that's urgent? Are you creating that urgency? And if the answer for me is I'm creating that urgency, then I like take a step back and I process like whatever is happening and causing me to feel like that. And I think that for a lot of people, because I also do the feeling wheel, is understanding that if you can name that feeling and then go, you can dig down. If you have a feeling wheel, and I'll put one in the show notes so people can look, there's like 7 or 8 like core feelings, and then they dig down into different gradients. And so if you can say, I'm feeling sad, I'm disappointed, I'm blah, 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 and you can follow that all the way down, then you can feel the core of that feeling, which is really, really important. Because then you can say, okay, I'm feeling this way. Okay, that's not a red flag. Okay, I'm feeling that way. That is a red flag. And if, you have like in the DSM-5, it's if you have 5 of like the 9 characteristics, if you have so many red flags, then, having a conversation might be really worth it. And even if someone knows all the red flags, so like you were with your first ex-husband, you knew all the red flags, but you ended up in a dynamic again. And I think some of that,
about that.
and I think some of that is because like a lot of people confuse that like kindness and niceness, because a nice person is a people pleaser, right? And they prioritize how other people feel about them, not what's right or moral. Where a kind person is like, okay, this is the moral thing. I'm going to practice that morality, and they do what's right, even if that pisses off the narcissist.
Yes.
So I would love how like maybe you can talk about either in your own personal experience or in, working with your clients, why people still end up in these kind of dynamics after, saying that person is a psycho narcissist. I'm not going to do that again. And then, it just happens sometimes. Totally happens.
It does. And the thing is, a lot of people, well, in my instance, I, took the recommended, it's recommended by the leading experts to not date for a year, not drink alcohol, not have intimate relations. Nothing's black and white. There are people that have found people, and I definitely, but time does not heal certain wounds, and it does not heal these wounds. And I'm one of those people. I took 2 years. I maybe went on like a date, one date here, one date there.
Yeah.
But I ended up back in that kind of relationship because I didn't do the work on me. And this person presented totally differently. And that is something, it irks me. It's one of those things like you can't like tell clients things. You can't like shake them and be like, You have to take that time. They're thinking that, well, this person feels safe. And I can explain it in every way possible because you want to learn genuine safety from you. A new relationship is a different kind of safety. You want to get that safety from, a friend, a parent, therapist, coach, something like that. If you're finding that safety from this person already, from a very new relationship, that is a major red flag to me because, they feel like home. They feel like I'm, but they're nothing like my ex. Well, no, because your ex was nothing like that at first.
Yeah.
But some people, it's just, they don't see it. And I hate it for them, but
I know. But, and I think that's a real, they didn't make up like the time, like that you have to like really kind of take, because that time is not just, you're not going to date. That time is really like assessing like what you've been through, assessing, okay, well, why did I like that? And I know for me, when my husband and I met, I knew what I didn't want in a partner. And that I think is even more important than knowing what you do want in a partner.
Yeah.
Because then if a red flag comes up, which none of none of those things for me happened when I met my husband. Like it wasn't that I knew that it was home, it's that there was a safety that was there for
Yeah.
me that I hadn't ever felt before, because everything was so like fucked up in all of my relationships, and it was crazy. And I think for me, and I don't know if you see this with your clients, but is there anything about like childhood experiences, and you alluded to yours, I've alluded to mine here and in several other episodes, are kind of that early conditioning that plays into repeating these patterns um, in your adult life?
Oh, absolutely. And there's psychologists out there that will say, on an unconscious level or subconscious level, you seek out your hardest primary caregiver relationship in order to try to, you're not doing this consciously. Like that's what a lot of people
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Think like that. Well, you're not thinking like that, but your body is, your brain is
Hmm.
trying to heal things that you can't heal through these repeating.
Hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
also a way of like reaffirming negative core beliefs on another level, something else completely different. Um, but it's familiar. Even if they show up differently, your system picks up on things long before your cognitive brain does. Like that little shift in their attitude, that little bit of, oh, they didn't call me back, or they didn't, or they got a little bit of it's those little shifts your system feels and says, this is familiar. I know how to navigate this, so I like this. But
Hmm.
where
Hmm.
someone is genuinely safe, that might actually feel kind of boring. That might
Hmm.
actually feel like, well, this isn't safe because they're not doing what feels normal to my system.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Being consistent.
I love consistency.
Mm-hmm. I see it.
Um, what can you tell me, in women that you work with, what are some like of the core wounds that you most often see in women who had narcissistic mothers, if you can tell, or if they've shared with you that their mother is that way?
And I work with men too. Um,
So I would love to hear the difference in the two, because I think that is a really important thing.
there's some, I feel like not everyone has a narcissistic parent, but there's some that literally didn't connect the dots until they were talking with me. And I'm thinking, I mean, it's very interesting how that
Yeah,
works.
yeah,
Because they're like, they
yeah.
knew their mom was always like that, but they thought that that's just how she is. But it wasn't
Right.
until they were telling their girlfriends, like, I think I'm finally connecting the dots. And they were like, how did you not see it? We knew
Right.
she was. And it's just
Right.
mm, a lot of that core wounds, I feel like, is, you know, they're abandoning. It's an abandonment,
Hmm.
not being chosen, not being
Yep.
prioritized, you know, mom being there physically or expecting them to perform. And they can say, my mom loved me. She took care of me. She fed me. She dressed me.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but what does she do for you emotionally?
Hmm. Hmm.
Was
Hmm.
she there for you emotionally? Or did you have to be a certain way in order to get her attention, in order to get her love? And how is that going now?
Hmm. Hmm.
Mm. And
You know,
mm.
it's so interesting because I often say, so my poor dad married my mom, who was a crazy narcissist. They got a divorce. And then my ex stepmom, is a crazy narcissist. Like the stories I could tell, crazy narcissist. They got a divorce after about 25 years. So a little longer than my parents were, but still, that's the way it ended. And he's got a new girlfriend. I don't know anything about her. He lives up north away from me. So she could be a narcissist. The jury's still out. Everyone has to listen to the second and third seasons of the podcast so they can find out if she is. But this like core wound of the abandonment is really interesting, because I talk about how when my dad was, I think, about one or two when my grandparents got a divorce, and he had two older brothers, and my grandpa got full custody of them,
Hmm.
and which is very odd back in the 50s,
Yeah.
like that. So I don't know I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but and I loved my grandmother. So my dad's mom. I don't think she was the best mom, but she was an awesome grandma. Like I
Mhm.
loved her to death. She was fantastic. And her second family, the family that, with her second husband was great. I think that her husband, they balanced each other out. It just wasn't a good mix with my grandpa. But that abandonment for my dad was what he was always searching for. Like, I don't know how my dad ended up. My dad was in Vietnam, met my mom in the Philippines. He didn't speak a lick of Tagalog, and my mom did not speak a lick of English. They got married.
Hmm.
I don't know how, like, got married. And then my dad came back to the US, and my mom then was able to immigrate, I think like a year later. And my mom didn't speak any English. I don't know how they communicated with each other. My mom had her own hustle. Back then, it was very clear that they were trying to leave, like a very large population was trying to leave the Philippines and come here to the US. That was her hustle. Like, I thank God she had the hustle because I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how they even figured out that
Yeah.
they should have been married. Like, I mean, that's just so crazy. And goes back to the whole Disney princess thing in my mind, because my dad had this idea. My dad's a romanticist. He has this idea of the way things should be. There's a show called Shrinking. I don't know if you've seen it. It's on
Mhm.
Apple TV. It's really, really great. It's about therapists and what therapist lives look like after. It's not reality TV, but it's regular television. Like, it's got Harrison Ford in it and a couple other people, and Harrison Ford, the therapist. But one of the therapists romanticizes everything. Like, he's got this whole thing where he romanticizes anything that happens. He practiced his speech to his daughter going away to college.
Mhm.
Like, and there's this whole thing, but that's not real life. That's
Yeah.
not how real life is, right? Like, you can't get thrown a curveball in your whole conversation and then be like, no, that's not the way I practiced it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think, for my dad, the curveball is he married two narcissists, unfortunately, poor guy.
Yeah.
um,
Mm.
what do what does, and I, I think that my dad is starting to work on this, but what does a really healthy boundary look like when you're just starting out? Like, this is my boundary, don't cross it. Because a lot of narcissists like to jump over that, right? So, what does a healthy boundary look like so that it's easy for you to keep it? And even if they cross it, you still are like, nope, that's a boundary.
Well, when it comes to boundaries, it's important to remember that boundaries are not about controlling other people. They're about protecting
Yes.
yourself. And you want to
Yeah.
start small because you're going to get pushed back. Boundaries just don't work with narcissistic people.
Mm-mm.
You're going to get major pushback. Like just the boundary
Mhm.
that I gave over a year ago with our grandparent and said, I'm not going to put my child on a plane and I said it as nicely.
Yeah.
That people pleasing part of me was still like, let me say this as nicely as I can.
Right.
He didn't talk to me or my kids for over a year. So, and I was like, well, my son's ASD. He was what, 6 at the time, 5.
No
I'm not
way.
putting them on a
Yeah.
plane by themselves. If I get
Yeah.
there, they all of a sudden don't want to go. Am I just supposed to force them? And their generation,
Yeah.
yeah, you make them go. They don't get a choice.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
get a
Yeah.
choice. I'm
Yes. So,
them. So I was like,
yeah.
it's just not good. And I said it as nice
Right.
as it be. So Thanksgiving came, Christmas came, and my kids were like, what's up with our grandparent? They didn't say it like that. They said it in
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
way, but I won't say the grandparents' names. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that was a real eye-opening moment. And that was a boundary for me. And so
Yeah.
the way I like to look at it is your body is going to tell you if you start to feel angry or you start to feel like just uncomfortable, that is your body saying something needs to be looked at here. This is a
Mhm.
place that I need self-protection. And not
Mhm.
everything is not about, you're going to get your way. Boundaries are
Mhm.
not black and white. Boundaries, sometimes they need a little bit of, well, they can change.
Mhm. Mhm.
With
Mhm.
narcissist people, yeah, boundaries just tick them off.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting um because of the narcissistic mom, like my boundaries are like really, like I'm really black or white. And
Mhm.
then when somebody crosses the boundary, even though most boundaries you could like have a conversation about, um, I'm like, nope, that's my boundary, not changing. Like
Mhm.
I'm not changing my mind. That's my boundary. And it takes a lot to get me to change my mind. And
Mm.
uh, my poor daughter, she's the one who has to, for most of it, where I'm like, nope, that's a boundary. Nope, that's a boundary. But you said something really, I think that's important is that boundaries can change,
Mhm.
but don't change them because you are trying to people please,
Yes.
right? Change them because
Hmm.
you want to change them. I think that is like a super important thing. How do you, speaking of people pleasing, how do you get people to move, or your clients to move out of that kind of people pleasing space to a self respect space
Hmm.
instead?
Well, it's a process. Nothing happens quickly, but just asking, I like to ask the question a lot is who am I constantly saying yes to? And who am I saying no to more often? Like with people pleasing, we're often saying yes to all these people, but there's
Hmm.
this voice in us that we're saying no to. And
Hmm. Hmm.
that is a red flag that nah, something's not right. We want to be saying yes to us, and people that respect
Hmm.
us,
Hmm.
they'll be saying yes too. And again, it's not about controlling them, but it's about if someone respects you, they're going to respect that. I'm not comfortable with this. We can figure out something on a later date, and they're going to be like, I understand that you're not comfortable. I mean, it sucks, but you're not comfortable, so I get it. Whereas
Hmm.
someone
Hmm.
that is, doesn't
Make the
respect
decision now,
boundary is going
right?
to be like, yeah, I don't like this boundary, or they're just going to give you the silent treatment for a year.
Oh, the silent treatment drives me nuts. I totally, and it's so interesting what that does to people,
Is
right?
yes, and what it does to people that care. I don't want to say no,
Yes.
that have some emotional connection, because the silent
Yes.
treatment, years ago with these people would have devastated me. But seeing
Yeah.
them for who
Yeah.
they are, I'm like, whew,
Yeah.
it's
Whatever.
nice not
Yeah.
talking to you for a year.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I joke because I saw this somewhere and then I decided to do it. My mom's name saved in my phone because she's blocked. So I don't get any of the phone calls or any of that or the messages. They all go into like a deleted folder. But when I see them, they go in under the DSM code for narcissistic personality
And
disorder.
that too.
That just makes me so fun. It like cracks me up like so much whenever I see it.
It does.
Um, so and one of the things that I find with people who have been through this kind of abuse is they have a really dark sense of humor.
Hmm.
It's really different, and like I'm the worst in regards to that. Like but it's to me it's really funny. Like I think it's hilarious that her name is saved in that.
Hmm.
And only a person who has been through the kind of abuse, right, can
Yeah.
understand that. And I think, as we go back, I just want to make that point is when you're dealing with a coach that is focused on this, or a therapist who's gone through the Dr. Romani like narcissistic abuse certification, it is so important to be with someone where you can say, oh, my mom did this, or oh, my partner did this, and not have someone look at you like you're nuts, because that adds to that abuse. And I know that therapists, our coaches don't plan
Hmm.
on abusing their people, the people that they're trying to help. And sometimes, like when I have said, this is something that my mom had did, um, people are like, that's crazy. What are you talking about? Like I often talk about the story where, my hair probably was as long as it is now. And I was going to school and she was my only transportation to school.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, mom, I'm going to go wait in the car. I'm just going to take the keys, just so you know. And my grandma was living with us at the time, her mom. And so she didn't have to lock the door because my grandma could have done it. And I remember walking past her. My mom's 4'11" and I'm 5'1", so I'm much bigger than my mom. But she grabbed the back of my hair and just pulled me straight down.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
was like, but hair is a really common thing for narcissistic people to like target,
Hmm.
especially daughters and their mothers. What I have seen more times than not is where a daughter has long hair and the mom uses it as a weapon like my mom did, or she just cuts the kid's hair.
Mm.
And that to me is crazy because, like, maybe the child didn't want her hair cut and she still
Yeah.
does it. And that's like it's a crazy, like, form of control that when you tell someone, hey, my mom cut my hair, like the group that I admin, like that's a common thing. Like when we share things that happen, no one says, oh, that's crazy. Everyone says, oh, your mom was a freaking psycho. That
Yeah.
happened to me, or this happened to me. Um,
I'm so
you
sorry.
know, oh, it's okay. It made me the person I am today. I think that for me, I'm sad that my mom chose that way. I
Mm.
don't know what kind of trauma that she experienced. And quite frankly, I don't fucking care
Mm.
because
Yes.
that doesn't give you a carte blanche card to just be crazy. And I
Mm.
think that is something that's really important for people who have experienced this narcissistic abuse. One of the things that I have seen, and I don't know if you have, is they often say, well, am I a narcissist because I'm
Mm.
displaying something similar to it?
Mm.
And the first thing I always say to them is, no, you're not a narcissist because you wouldn't be asking if you
Mm.
were one. That's number one. And you're sorry. Like, making the mistake or doing that behavior, like if you are sorry for it and you are working to change it and it's not something that's continual, I think that you're trying to heal.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, and I don't, in my experience, I don't know if you've experienced this, is the healing doesn't ever stop.
No, it doesn't. So if
Right? So
anyone's out there saying you can be healed in 21 days,
that's
no,
bullshit. Yeah.
stop that.
They're narcissists. They're lying to you. It's bullshit. They just want the money.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that, you don't graduate from therapy or graduate from coaching. What I am saying when I say that is, like, I always had the goal of working myself out of a job when it comes to coaching. It's that if a moment hits for someone, they see it and
Mhm.
then they use the tools that they've learned to get through it. And maybe you might need to check in. That's okay. If you need to check in, it's totally okay. Check in. If you need like 5 check-ins and then you're good again, that's totally okay.
Yep.
Uh, Healing is not linear. It's not, I was abused. Okay, now I'm not. It's like all over the place. And, you know, certain things might happen in your life and it might trigger you to feel some type of way and you go back to it. There might, what I find for myself, and I don't know if you found this, or and I find this in a lot of my clients, is when I feel that there's success, like I'm waiting for the other
Mhm.
shoe to drop, and then I start doing things like the other shoe has dropped, but it hasn't. And then I'm like sabotaging what's going on. And I
Mm.
have to like take a step back and say, okay, what's going on? What am I feeling? Okay, I'm safe. That's what I tell a lot of my clients. I said the first thing you need to say, if the person is not right next to you, is that you're safe.
Mhm.
And if you're not safe, then that's a whole nother story because they're right next to you.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why I
you
love
know,
the internal family system because you really
yes.
look at different behavior. It gave me a whole different kind of compassion for myself. Like, why
Yep.
do I have to have the dishes out of the sink every night before I go to bed? Like, it really allowed me just to get curious about things. Like, why is this? Why do I want to people please? Why is it? But it allows you to get curious with compassion and not judge
Yes.
yourself. Like, this part is trying its best to keep me safe from feeling what? What does it think it's going to keep me safe from feeling?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that that's why, I often say that therapy and coaching go hand in hand because that internal family system is like, it's visited there. There is a serious, um, there is scientific studies that talk about the way that you were treated as a child, the inner relationships that you had with your siblings
Mhm.
or your parents will directly affect how you choose your partner. When I was in school working on my undergrad, one of the things we had to do was go out to elementary schools
Mhm.
class and ask them, get permission, of course, to talk to the kids, but then ask them like what kind of partner they wanted. And, more often than not, the person that they like internalize or visualize had very common features to their caretakers,
Mhm.
right? So, oh, I want their hair to look curly. Like your boys might say, I would want my partner to have curly hair,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it's not even something that you would. So you should ask them
I was about to
what
say,
they think.
I do have to go get them. So, my youngest, he'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about, but that's that. He's
Yeah,
great,
yeah,
but I just love him to death. I love them both to death. But he has his own little world going on. But I'm really
I love
interested
it.
because my oldest, it's so funny. My oldest, he just turned 11.
Oh, fun! Those are fun ages. You
Mm-hmm.
know, one of the things that I will tell people, I hope they listen to this, and if they have kids, is if you can like sit down and play Minecraft with them, they will tell you everything through what they're building and what they're
Mm-hmm.
doing. Which I think is really, really cool. So I know that you have to pick up your littles.
Yeah.
So I have one last question for you.
Okay.
What would you love for a person who is experiencing this narcissistic abuse to know now while they're, getting out of it, or while they're healing? What would you want them to know about this abuse or about themselves?
About themselves is it's not their fault. They are
I love
lovable.
that.
They are born deserving of love. And somewhere along the way, someone changed that belief. And
I
they
love that.
deserve love just as they are now. They don't have to heal us to a certain point. They don't have to be a certain person. Just for existing, they deserve love.
I love that. That's the best note to end on. Thank you so much
Mhm.
for sitting with me. I love this.
Ew.
And I'm going to definitely, we have so much to talk about. This is an endless topic. So I'll have you
I
back
know I
on.
taking notes because there was things you said. I'm like, oh, I want to go back. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about my ADD.
We
It's good.
will. We will. Don't
Yeah.
worry. And we'll have you back on. And when you come back on, I'm going to ask you about what your son said about who he wants in his partner. So I can't
Mhm.
wait.
I will ask him tonight. He'll probably be like, I don't want a girlfriend, but he kind of has a girlfriend, but he doesn't, even though they don't even talk to each other. I don't understand. But I had
Oh
lunch
man.
today for his birthday. I did have lunch with him. She ate with us. She's lovely.
Oh, how
I asked
cute.
her- And I asked her age, and I told my son, and he's like, I didn't know that was her age. I'm like, what do y'all talk? Do you even know? Would you know her name? It's just funny. It's funny. There's
I
a little
love it.
bit,
Well, we're
yeah.
gonna get we call it cheese may. We're gonna get the cheese may on the gossip on your son, the cheese
The
may
cheese
in
may.
Spanish, and then make sure that she's not toxica, that she's not toxic.
She's
That she-
lovely.
oh, good.
Oh,
That's so sweet.
she's
Oh, I can't wait.
she's the music. I mean, she's just lovely. And they both have braces. It was just cute.
Oh,
Yeah.
cute. I can't wait. I
They
can't
don't
wait
even
to hear
sit
about
near
it.
each other though, which I love. Yeah. Keep your
Yeah.
distance.
Keep her
Yeah.
distance. That's what I have to say about girls and my son. So we'll keep your distance. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again, and I appreciate
Thank
it. And
you.
thank you so much, Sami, for sharing your story, your wisdom, and your heart with us. Conversations like this remind us that healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were before the pain convinced you otherwise. Healing from a narcissistic mother is real, possible, and you never have to do it with shame. I'm your host, Noelani Pearl Hernandez, and until next time, take gentle care of yourself.
Your skin is a part of your nervous system, and taking care of it is essential to overall balance. Our products are specifically formulated to nourish your skin and bring it closer to homeostasis with every use. Start feeling better in your body today with the Happy Cannabis.